Yep, ready.
Hey, Brad, how's it going?
That's going good, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for showing up on time.
Absolutely. How was your Labor Day weekend? Back from an exciting weekend, or?
Oh yeah, relaxing. Start off of college football, so took advantage of that on Saturday, and wife had me do some things around the house on
For
Sunday
sure.
and Monday. So I got one day at least.
Yeah, some good games on. You watched the LSU game in Florida State?
No, I'm a Michigan guy, so I watched them beat up them,
Yeah,
beat up
seriously.
Colorado State. So
Yeah, that was a runaway on that one. They were.
I figured it would be usually their first two,
Yeah,
so.
that's why I was surprised with Florida State and LSU right off the bat, right? Like they kind of, they came up against each other, and Ohio State played like a top Notre Dame, right?
Notre
They played
Dame.
like
Yep. They
top
beat
ranked
Notre
team.
Dame. So
Yeah, there's some good
um,
action on this weekend, and now football starts on Thursday, right?
yeah, I'm ready, man.
Good, good. Well, yeah. So thanks for taking the time to speak with me today, and kind of go through some of the ins and outs of solar. I'm definitely excited to share some of these numbers with you. We have a very, very strong quote. You have a wonderful house for solar, so that's good news. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Is this kind of something, the first time you're looking into this for solar? Have you sat down? Have you talked to a couple other companies before? Where are you at in the buying process here?
You're really the first company I've sat down with to talk about it.
Okay.
My wife and I, we've threw it around back and forth. Maybe we should get some quotes. And
So
see if we
hold
could
on.
say.
Let's not use this as an example. Keep in mind, you're supposed to be like a tough customer to deal with, right?
Okay.
So let's go in the other direction, right? I've been shopping for a while, blah 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 blah. I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that, right? We want to try to get as much out of this as we can. All
Okay.
right. Not a layup, remember? I'm
Oh,
going to close you either way,
I
right?
wasn't going to be a layup, but go for
Good,
it.
good. Yeah. So let's take that again. So where are you in the buying process? You start looking, or where you at?
Yeah, I have a couple different quotes from a couple other companies.
Very
So
nice.
typically I like to get three quotes,
Good,
with everything I do.
good.
Really analyze those and, see what makes the most sense.
Without a doubt. And I'd love to help you with that. And apparently it looks like you've saved the best for last with Infinity, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Good, good. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the quotes that you're collecting? I'm sure you've now like gained some knowledge about the industry and the incentives and how some of the different things work here. Have you kind of went toward one financing vehicle or the other? Are you looking at lease versus loan? What's the
I'd probably rather purchase than
Yeah,
lease.
that
I
seems to be the wave. Yeah, most people are wanting to own their power. All right, great. Well, yeah,
I
I
haven't
mean, I
leased
know.
a car, so I don't want to, lease a, solar system.
Absolutely. Well, and you're renting your power now. Why would you want to continue doing that if you have the opportunity to own it, right? Create
Yeah.
your own power and benefit fully off of it with all the incentives. So I agree with that 100%. It's a good call. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. I mean, if you've sat down with a couple different companies, you probably said, okay, these are some of the things that I like. These are some of the things that I don't like, right? My ideal, program and company looks kind of like this. You want to fill me in on some of that?
Really, I'm looking for the most cost savings, with everything going up, from groceries and, I want to save money where I can.
Okay.
So that's what it's really probably going to come down to is who's giving me the, best price.
Got it. Okay. So equipment and product and service would take a back seat to that.
Not necessarily. Of course, everybody's looking for all three, but sometimes you don't get all three. But
Sure.
I'll take everything into account, and in our decision making and what we're going to do.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So, but price is the number one thing, right? Because this is like buying a car, right? Your analogy before, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you can go ultra high end and get a Ferrari, right? Or you can get a Honda, right? There's nothing wrong with that either, right? So, I mean, it's a reliable product, good warranty, right? But there's a lot of different levels to kind of the products that you can go. So that's
I
good to
think
know.
monthly savings is really what we're looking at.
Okay.
It is what it comes down to. 4 or 5 grand here. But if the monthly makes sense, that's what we're aiming to do.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know. Good, wonderful. And is there anything that is it absolute necessity to you, right? Is there something that you're like, all right, I have to have this, to make the decision?
Not necessarily. I've heard, some things about batteries and, so they've kind of explained that to me that, you could do a battery, but you don't need to. So I may need some more clarification on that.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely touch on that for sure. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, yeah. I have I have a variety of different stuff here to kind of go over with you. Just one quick question, actually, before we get into that. Are you working currently and paying taxes?
Yes.
Okay, cool, good,
Yep.
good. All right, great. So yeah, so that, as you know, that'll qualify you for the federal income taxes, right? And your New York State tax credits, which are both key components of going solar here. All right, wonderful. Well, so I have a little bit of a slideshow. I'm going to take you through this. We'll go through this at any time. Feel free to stop me. All right, and we'll
Okay.
kind of go back and forth. All right, so I'm going to take over on the screen. Just let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
All right, perfect. So obviously the name of the company is Infinity Energy. So setting a quick little agenda, we're going to talk today about what solar can do for you. Take a look at Infinity and how we separate ourselves from the competition. Take a look at your bill. We'll break all that down together, and we'll take a look at the proposal and see what makes the most sense for you. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, so for starters, what can solar do for you? Well, obviously it's going to save you money. I think you found out at least this much right up to this point.
Yeah.
It's going solar is always going to be more cost effective than dealing with the utility company. Two is energy independence. You're going to have the ability to start producing your own electricity and not be grid reliant, right? That's also going to give you price protection. So beautiful thing about solar is you're going to fix your monthly cost for electric, right? You'll have the same payment day in, day out. You're going to also be beating inflation, right? Because that loan payment is going to be fixed on a monthly basis. You're not going to be subject to the utility price increases. Also, that's going to give you the ability to budget accurately. One of the worst things for me before I went solar, sometimes, the electric bill is $50, sometimes it's $500. The month it's 500, it hurts, right? That's a big hit, especially when you're not expecting it. And then one of the biggest decisions for me going solar was to be able to help the environment, right? This is not just a cost-effective way to receive power, right? But it's the right way, right? Instead of burning coal or using nuclear, right? You have the ability to literally generate power from the sun that's already hitting your roof, right? So a little bit about our company. We've actually been established here since 2008, right? This past year, we were part of the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, all right? A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and the list goes on and on. Company was actually co-founded here by these two gentlemen, Murphy on the left, Achilles on the right. They actually grew up across the street from each other, started off and kind of opened up their own businesses as they became, a little bit older. Murphy on the left is a GAF certified roofing contractor. So to this day, we are a full-scale master elite GAF certified roofing installer. So what that actually means to you, is we're one of the only companies in the region that has a full end-to-end roofing abilities. How old is your roof? Do you know?
It's probably about 17 years old.
Okay. And have you spoken to any other companies about that? Are you looking to do a roof before you put the solar on?
That probably makes the most sense. I have a buddy that owns a roofing company.
Very nice. Good, good. Well, we can also provide you with a comparative quote. One of the huge benefits, if we do the roof, what we'll be able to do is wrap this entirely into your solar program, right? If we roll it into your solar program, the roof will also become an ITC deductible item, right? So we'll cover that in a minute and how that indicates, right? But we do provide pretty aggressive costs, right? And then if you're able to get 30% of that money back, those prices are untouchable for the most part. Other huge benefit of us doing this, we actually use Timberline HGZ, which is a 50-year product, right? So the roof is guaranteed for 50 years on the product side, and Infinity will back all the workmanship for 25 years, including the penetrations into the roof that we do, right? So it's kind of, we call it one neck to choke, right? If you ever have an issue up there, right, you give us a shout. Make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, so that's a little bit about Murphy's background. Again, on the left, full GAF certified roofing contractor. Master Elite is the designation that we get through GAF, which is actually reserved for the top 1% of roofing companies nationally. So we don't do this off the side of the desk. We do it at an extremely, extremely high level. All right. On the other side of Achilles, right? So Achilles by trade is actually a master electrician, right? So same type of route as Murph, right? He actually decided to open up his own outfit. So still today, we do provide electrical services. So we're able to do main service panel upgrades and full service changes, and provide a lot of additional value on that, right? When you're upgrading your electrical systems. So overall, we've done about 7,000 projects now. We've done a couple since this video. Can you see that?
I see the orange box, but nothing in the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's weird. Mine's that's what I see on my side. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, it looks like it's coming back. Can you see it now?
There it goes.
Okay, that was weird. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but so so since our inception, we've done around 7,000 installs, so definitely not our first rodeo. We've actually created some different ways to install, right? One of the ways that we're able to do this, since we don't subcontract any of the work, what we're able to do is we're able to run the conduits through the interior, right, of the roof. Now, if your home is your biggest asset, we want to make sure that we improve the aesthetic appeal of it, not hurt it, right? So what we do is we take the conduits of the electrical pieces and we run it through any exposed attic space, right? So, there's not electrical piping on the roof. This is a very, very important thing that affects the aesthetics of the system in a pretty large way here. So when you're able to make this, more aesthetically pleasing, we always make sure we do that, right?
Okay.
Not always the most cost-effective thing, right? Because obviously it's a lot cheaper to do this, right, on the labor side than it is to do this. But the final product is going to look a lot better and it's going to perform a lot better overall because it's installed by the right people. One of the biggest pieces on our end is we are using real electricians on the job, right, to make sure that the system is installed correctly the first time, right? And we never subcontract any of the work out, right? So it's our internal personnel that are going to show up, right, to make sure that it's done. And as you can see, we're comprised of real roofers and real electricians, which is going to make a huge difference in the final product here. All right.
So do other companies, I mean, wouldn't they all have to be an electrician to run the power?
No. So the company holder, right, the license, there needs to be a license holder at the company, right? The majority of the time that's actually even outsourced, right? And then the people that are on there, we call them solar electricians, right? They're mostly just bending pipe. Usually, if there's one guy that has an electrical license on the job, that would be the person that would be playing around the panel. But then the rest of the people usually are not licensed electricians, right? They just be like hired help, right? And those guys are bending pipe and connecting the connectors to the outside of the house and laying rack and rail and so on and so forth. But biggest thing here, really, an installation is two parts, right? It's a roofing part and the electrical part, right? The roofer is kind of lay the racking down, lay the systems, kind of mount all that stuff out, protect any flat and any penetrations, they flash and seal correctly, right? Which obviously we have a unique advantage on that side, right? Because we're a roofing company. And same thing on the electrical side, right? They actually can do, conducting the connections of the system. Since we're all real electricians, again, the final product is just going to come out nicer and perform at a higher level. Okay. All right. Any questions about any of
that? No, I'd have to check on my meter. Like with my attic space, I don't know if my meter's, because I have a half finished attic. I don't know where my meter's at. I'll have to look. I don't know if it's on the unfinished attic side or where I don't have attic, or if it's where the attic is.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure that out either way. If we can run it through the attic on half it, that's what we'll do, right? If we can't, then we won't, right? But what we'll do is on the day of install, the electrical foreman will come up, he'll meet you, he'll go over all the electrical on the conduit run, so show you where everything's going to be laid out, and you guys at that time will pick the most aesthetically appealing layout for the runs.
Okay, all right. Would you guys move a meter?
Typically not, no. No, I mean, because the meter is connected to the service, right? So that means we'd have to remove the entire electrical service, right? The meter pan, the main service panel, and then all the connections are made there, right? So you'd literally have to move everything, to the side of the house. So I'm not unless you're looking to spend another $20,000 or so.
No, not necessarily. It's good where it's at.
Big undertaking. You'd have to rerun all the electrical in the house. But yeah, any other questions about that? The install and
no.
So one of the biggest things too, because we're able to provide this, we do have a 25-year leak-proof penetration warranty. So we're guaranteeing that any penetrations that we do make in the roof are going to be airtight and leak-free, right? The industry standard is 5, some offer 10. Okay. Right. So an important thing to think about down the line, right? You want to make sure that, the work that's done is done right. Because if there is an issue down the line, you don't want to be responsible for that cost.
Okay.
All right.
Good to know.
Yep. All right, so the next thing I want to talk to you about here is the incentives. So currently we're in a pretty interesting place right here. The entire electrical infrastructure is completely falling apart. We're running into big issues here with not just the way that the power is actually created through nuclear and coal, right? The EPA is crushing these different, these ways that power is manufactured, but the actual way that the power is delivered from point A to point B is also falling apart. So the federal government had a pretty unique problem on their hands, right? They needed to figure out new ways to generate power, ideally clean power, right? While simultaneously not taxing the current infrastructure anymore, right? If you look at what's going on, the electrical needs right now are unprecedented, right? People are charging their cars, charging their doorbells, charging their headphones, charging every device that they have. So we're moving into a culture where we're consuming a lot more power. So the federal government wanted to try to get ahead of this. And one of the ways that they did this is they created a tax credit that would allow people to go solar in a more cost-effective way, right? Because it kind of kills two birds with one stone. If you go solar, you have panels on the roof, they generate power, right? No need for a power plant, right? And you're delivering that power from the roof directly into your main service panel. No need to tax a delivery system. The issue was the cost effectiveness. So the federal government created this. It's the Federal Solar Tax Credit, the ITC. Okay. And the way that it works is 30% of the total cost of your project will be financially reimbursed to you when you file your federal income taxes. Now, that's why I asked you before, right? Do you have the tax liability? So, and I'm sure you've been explained this before, but I want to make sure you understand what it is. So once we get down to that part, there's no confusion, right?
Okay.
So the way that it will work, for example, the example that we have here, or let's just throw out a big number, nice and easy numbers. Let's say the cost of your solar project was $100,000, just throwing that number out there, right? You would get 30% of the money back on your federal income tax credit, right? Which in that scenario would be $30,000. You have a tax credit of 30 grand. Okay. Now, as long as you pay federal taxes throughout the course of the year, right? When you go to file your taxes, you're going to file a tax document called a 5695. Your accountant, any accountant has this, and you're going to actually be able to get all the money back that you paid in federal tax that year, right? Because you have that tax credit. Okay. Makes sense. So you would get back whatever you normally get back plus that. Okay. Do you usually pay at the end of the year? Usually get money back?
Usually we get money back.
Good. So this year you get that money back plus in addition, whatever the 30% of your total cost of your system is. Okay. Any questions about that?
So if let's say I get 5,000, I'd get 35,000.
Correct. In that scenario. Yeah. Now you can only get back what you paid. So if you only paid the federal government $30,000 that year, right? And we're using obviously a huge scenario here. Your tax credit's not going to be $30,000, but in that scenario, if you've only paid the federal government $30,000 and you have a $35,000 tax credit, you would claim $30,000 the first year and $5,000 the next.
Okay, makes sense.
5 years to claim the money.
Okay, so you'll get it eventually.
You'll get it eventually. Yes. Yeah, as long as you're paying it, you'll be able to get it back.
Yeah, they like it. They take it
without a doubt. So in addition to that, the federal government started to put a lot of pressure on the state level. So the state created two additional incentives. One is called the NYSERDA program, right? NYSERDA stands for New York State Energy and Research Development Authority. And what this is every single time you pay your electric bill, a small portion of your bill goes into something called the NYSERDA fund, right? That proceeds from the small portion of your bill get created into a renewable energy fund. And when people go solar, they have access to the fund. The way that the NYSERDA rebate works is it's an instant deduction off of the top of the system. So using that $100,000 scenario again, let's say this project was 100 grand, right? You would get a NYSERDA rebate of around $5,000 in that scenario. It would come right off the top. Right?
Okay.
It's an instant deduction. So it would decrease the amount of money that you owe. Okay.
Okay.
Lastly, the state of New York also created a $5,000 tax credit. Right. So the way that this one works is very similar to the federal ITC. Right. The way that this one would work, except it would just be on the New York state tax side, not the federal. Okay. So the federal gives you 30% of the total cost of the system, right? And using our $100,000 scenario, right? You get $30,000 in tax credits back on the Fed, and then you get an additional $5,000 from the New York state, right? So when you file your taxes, you file federal and state, right? $5,000 would be for the state. You get that money back. 30% of the system will go to the federal.
Okay, makes sense.
Any questions about any of that? Just covered a lot of information and pretty dense.
No, I mean, with the NYSERDA, you said around if it was 100 grand, how do they know? Is there some sort of calculation?
Yeah, it's based off of the system size. Everybody's is a little bit different. When we take a look at the agreement, I'll show you what yours is.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, perfect. Now, one of the big things that you're going to be able to get as an Infinity customer is we're going to cover this with the Infinity warranty here. Like I mentioned, it's a leak-proof penetration guarantee, right? We guarantee all the equipment on the system for 25 years, replacement of any damaged panels, 24/7 concierge support, system monitoring, and solar performance analysis. And obviously, like we mentioned, the discounts on new roofs. Okay. Another thing that you're going to get free of charge included in here is the Enphase monitoring system. So this is a fantastic product. We're actually using a microinverter system. So we're converting DC electrical current to AC on the individual panel level. So since we're doing it like that, right, we're able to monitor every single panel, what each one of these panels is producing. If there's ever an error, you get an error message here. We can see the same thing on our end, which helps us monitor the systems. And then you're also going to be able to see the amount of electricity the solar system produced here in blue versus your consumption, right? How much electricity you're consuming here in orange. And you'll be able to see produced, consumed, the net export, and so on and so forth, right? So you're going to be able to see all this stuff in live time. The app is updated every 10 minutes. Right. So you have real live time to see exactly what's going on in the system. It'll tell you if the system is operating normally or not. Right. And you're going to be able to see on a panel by panel level exactly what's happening out there. So this is the most cutting edge technology that's available through Enphase. Okay. All right. Any questions about any of that?
You said Enphase. What's Enphase?
Enphase is a microinverter company, and they also support the monitoring systems.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the other company used. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. If they're not using Enphase, just throw that quote away. Right. You have to use this component in this part of the country. It is a absolute necessity. Right. So there's two different ways. So like I mentioned before, solar panels generate a DC electrical current. Mm-hmm. What you consume in your house is AC power. Okay. So now the solar system needs to convert the DC current to AC, so it's usable power for your home. There's two ways to do this. Okay. Something called a string inverter, which means that a whole bunch of panels are on one string, right? So let's say you have 30 panels, string 1 would have 10, string 2 would have 10, string 3 would have 10, right? Okay. The issue is, right, with the string inverter is if you have a little bit of shading on 1 or 2 of the panels in the string, it shuts the whole string down, right? So you would lose in that scenario 33% of the production of the system because a little bit of shade hit that part of the roof. Okay.
Yeah.
Vice versa, what we provide is a microinverter system. So each individual panel has its own micro. So if there's a little bit of shading on one panel, it only affects the one panel, not all the panels on the string, right? So again, that has to be a microinverter system. If they're not using Enphase as their inverter, they're doing you a massive disservice, even if they're thousands of dollars cheaper, because the strings are thousands of dollars cheaper, but your system's not going to operate properly. You're going to have big issues down it, and the production numbers they're not going to be able to hit that.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't recall them mentioning anything about it. So I don't know what they're using. I was just looking at price.
Yeah, they might be using Enphase, they might not, right? But this is a key component, right? For any system installed in the Northeast. If they're not doing that, either one, they don't know any better, and I wouldn't want them drilling holes in my roof or connecting my solar system, or two, they're just trying to use cheaper equipment, which is going to affect you very negatively downstream, and not 10 years downstream, like day one, right? Okay. All right. All right, cool. So that's a little bit about Enphase and how that works. So what I want to do next is I want to take a look at your electric bill. Thank you for sending that over. All right, we're going to take a full look. I'm going to break down all your electrical charges, your costs, and then I'm going to show you how that plays, and we'll take a look at the proposal here.
Okay.
All right. So here's a copy of your electric bill, right? So you sent over 2 pictures, right? One of the graph. This gave me the ability to break down the system, right? And figure out how much electricity you're consuming month by month to figure out what kind of system I need to produce. And the other one shows the charges here, okay? So breaking down this bill, it's actually pretty simple. So the way that the bill is broken down, it's broken down into 3 main segments. Your first segment here is showing you the total amount of power that you consumed over the past 30 days. So power is measured in kWh, kilowatt hours. It's just the unit of measurement, right? Like gallons of gas, inches to feet, right? Unit of measurement. So last month, you consumed 1,999 kilowatt hours worth of electricity. That's how much you bought from Orange and Rockland, okay? Now, that gets billed to you in 2 separate ways. It gets billed to you in your delivery charges, right? That's the cost for bringing it to your house, and your supply, okay? So breaking it down. So your delivery here is exactly what it sounds like. It's the amount of money that you pay Orange and Rockland to get the power delivered from the power plant, coal plant, nuclear plant, all the way to your home, okay? Now think about what's involved in that, right? They have people driving around in O&R trucks all over the place that you see, all the people that are working up on the towers, all the pensions, right, that are out there, the vehicles, the fleets that are out there, the gas that goes into them, and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of the surface delivery charges. In addition to that, though, Orange and Rockland has added all these additional charges on top of the delivery. So you pay all the obvious delivery stuff that I just mentioned, right? But then you're paying one rate for the first amount of power, another rate for the second amount of power. This is your energy cost adjustment, right? So this is just saying that it's adjusting your cost, right? Increasing it because of the amount of power that you're getting. These are additional surcharges and RDM charges. The transitional adjustment charge, the SBC, this is actually your NYSERDA charge. If you remember before, I said that everybody pays a small amount into your into this fund every month that has an electric bill. SBC is the systems benefits charge, aka NYSERDA. So last month you paid $11.25 into the solar fund, right? Once you transition into solar, you're not going to be the person that's paying in, but you're going to be the person withdrawing money from that fund, right? So you're about to be on the better side of the coin. Okay. And then, like I mentioned, governmental surcharges. This is a whole bunch of BS, right? This is hundreds of dollars of who knows what that they're packing into the bill here. Okay. So the beauty of this is you're going to be able to remove all these delivery charges because, again, you're going to be delivering the power from your roof into your main service panel. So you're not going to be subject to this insanity. Okay. On the other part of the bill here is your supply, right? So your supply is exactly what it sounds like. It's the amount of energy you purchase from the utility company. It's what they supplied you with, okay? So breaking this down as simply as I possibly can, last month, your total supply charges were $188.96. What Orange and Rockland supplied you with was 1,999 kilowatt hours worth of power, okay? Which is not a terrible deal. You paid $188, you got almost 2,000 kilowatt hours worth of power. The issue is that you had to pay to get that power brought to your house, which actually cost you $194. So it cost you $194, right, to deliver $188 worth of power to your home, which is crazy, right? Yeah, I mean, the equivalent of that would be, you bought $40 worth of food, right, and tipped the guy $50.
You have to have real good service.
So that's the way this is set up, right? So that's why your total bill last month was $393. So the beauty of this is once you go solar, right, your supply goes away because you'll be supplying the power to yourself, and then you'll be delivering it to yourself. Okay. The only charge that we're going to want to keep is this first charge here, which is your basic service charge. Now, the way that solar works, which is only $20, right? So the way that solar currently works is this. Solar works through something called net metering. So as the solar system is generating electricity, that power is coming off of the roof into your main service panel, and then you consume the power in your house. Pretty simple, right?
Right.
However, when you're not home, that power needs somewhere to go, right? So during the day, you and the family are out for work. The solar system doesn't know that. It's still doing its thing out there, right? Producing all the power. So what happens is, right, if it's producing power, it comes into your meter, into your panel, right? If there's no draw in your house, that power just gets stored outside on the grid, right? Then later in the day, you come home, right? The sun goes down, solar system's not producing power anymore. Now you need power to power your home. So what do? You just pull the power back off the grid. Right? Yeah. That's called net metering. Every 1 kilowatt hour of power that you send out, you get 1 kilowatt hour back in return. It's a one-to-one credit, right? Okay. So we were talking about batteries before, right? This is why the majority of people in New York opt not to get batteries. You have an unlimited amount of storage right outside your door for $20 a month. It's the best deal by far, right? The issue in New York is usually not power stability, it's power cost, right? There's hardly any other places in the country that people are paying $400 a month for their electric, right? We get slaughtered here in New York. It is an absolute travesty, right? So what we want to do as New Yorkers is we want to actually decrease the cost of the power, right? And we're lucky that we have good stability, so the batteries usually take a backseat. Okay. Now, in addition to that, one of the things that's happening right now, we already showed how your delivery costs are significantly more money than your supply. Another thing that's just happening, I'm sure you've been following the news or you saw this on the news, the nuclear power plant, Indian Point, actually got fully decommissioned, right? So now all the power that is being supplied to you that was being manufactured 15 miles away, right? All that power is now going to start being manufactured in PA and Niagara Falls, which means that it's going to be coming hundreds of miles further to your house. What do you think is going to happen to your delivery charge when that happens?
I would guess it's going to go up.
Yeah, you guessed right, right? It's going to go up a lot, right? Because if they need to deliver it 150 miles versus 15 miles, right? There's that many more people that are working on the infrastructure. There's that many more people that need to touch it and get it there. There's that much more line loss, and all that stuff comes downstream to you. So you are making this move at the perfect time. All
Okay.
right. Any questions about the bill and how that's broken down, or how any of that works?
No. I mean, what if we use all the electricity during the day? Like, because we both work from home.
Yeah.
What if I don't have any net metering, or if my system doesn't produce enough?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the systems are based off of an annual production, right? So remember when I showed you that bar graph in your bill and it showed me how much electricity you consumed over that year span? What I did is I took that graph and I figured out, okay, this is how much electricity Brad uses over the course of the year. And I built a system that's going to produce that same amount of electricity. So the day to day doesn't so much matter. It's the month to month or the year to year, right? Because if you're negative one day, right? You consume more than what you produce one day. The next day you produce more than you consume, and it washes itself out.
Okay. So if I use, say I have, how long is that good for? Does it roll over month to month?
Good question. So the way that it works is the day that your system is put in service, that's called your anniversary date. Okay. So let's just say hypothetically today was your anniversary date, September 6th, right? What will happen is all your system, let's say month one, right? You create a bank of 200, month three, right? Or month two, you created another 300. Now you have 600 in your bank, and then you use 500, right? So that bank will ebb and flow throughout the year.
Okay.
Every year on September 6th, on that anniversary date, whatever's left in your bank, right, on that day, the utility company will purchase back from you, and you'll go back to zero. Okay.
So do they send me a check?
They'll credit your bill. Right.
Okay.
So right now you buy gas and electric, right, from the utility company, right? Plus you'll have your basic service charge of about $20, right? So that bill credit will impact that bill accordingly. Let's say it's $40 or $30, right? You'll just get that off of the total amount owed at the end of the month.
Okay.
Now the goal is not to produce a system, not to create a system that's going to overproduce a significant amount of power, because that also means that you're actually paying for electric that you don't need, paying for product that you don't need, right? So we want to size the system as accordingly as possible. Now, if you tell me, hey, I want to add a whole bunch, or overbuild the system because I'm going to be buying an EV, or I'm going to be buying a different, buying something else in the near future that's going to impact the electric, we can scale the system accordingly now, but that's not typically the goal, is to build the biggest system.
Okay. So you can always add on later.
You can always scale the systems down the line if need be. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. So disclosure, I'm in my portal pitching this right now, and my developer is working on things here. So this is not, it might look a little weird.
All right.
All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. So, know a little bit about me. So like I mentioned here, right, we are providing full-scale roofing solutions. We're doing all the electrical work. Like I mentioned, we have over 7,000 projects completed, right? Here's some of the accreditations. One of the biggest, most important things, and why so many people choose us, is this guarantees, right? For 25 years, we are guaranteeing the production. We're guaranteeing any penetrations we make into the roof, and we're guaranteeing the equipment. The production is key. No other company is really guaranteeing this, right? So we're saying that the amount of power that the system that I'm telling you today, the system is going to produce, we guarantee that it's going to produce that. And if it doesn't, we'll financially reimburse you the difference when we audit the system. Okay, so that's very important, because anybody can tell you anything they want, but if there's no production, if there's no guarantees backing it up, it doesn't really matter. It's just words.
And that's all in writing, right? Correct.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of the biggest things that you're going to be able to achieve, the cost of power, as you know, is going up month by month, right? Over the next 30 years, you're going to pay almost $250,000 in electric costs. So we're going to sidestep all that. And your average electric bill today, it's $440. Right? So this is a graph showing you your cost of rising over time, which, like I mentioned, right, by the end of the solar agreement here, right, you'll be paying around $800 a month. Your costs are going to double, right? So your savings are literally growing every single month you have solar, because all the cost for power around you just continues to go up. This is just a map of some of the installs that we've done in the area. Like I mentioned, we've done around 7,000 of them. So you can see here, I mean, we've installed a handful of drops in your area. right? This is my customer, so he's already installed, you can see. But you can see here in the surrounding area, I mean, some of the installs that we've done, and then in the Rockland County area, I mean, we have some pretty dense coverage here throughout New York and New Jersey, as you can see. So, we learned a thing or two along the way. So the system that we're proposing here, again, I wouldn't have proposed this system, the REC 405s, but my developer, I would have proposed the other one, the lower wattage panels here, because he's more price effective, right? So
to go off is this one you sold then?
It is. This one's already sold.
But not the REC 405s, correct?
I did sell him REC 405s.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you weren't going to do that. Okay.
I wouldn't. I would have sold. So the option now on the other one is a Trina 385. That changed yesterday, right? So that's what my developer is doing. But I have a sales meeting every Wednesday at 8:30, right? So I wanted that all to be rolled out. When he does developmental work, he does it in my portal first before he rolls it out to everybody, just to make sure.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying before. I would have absolutely, from everything you told me, pitched you the Trina 385s. Right, because what cost effective, right? This is just a signed deal. This is the one I use, and I can't use that access that other product right now because he's working on it. Anyways, system here is 55 REC 405s. The system size is a 22.75 kW, right? Producing 25,000 kilowatt hours worth of power. Okay. Now, what that means to you, we're going to produce 104% of your offset, right? So that means that we're going to produce all the power you need and more, right, at your home. All right, so this is just a little graph here showing you how your power is currently being, this is working. So how it's currently being produced, right? Being produced in the coal factory, through the lines and into your home, right? Once you have solar, right, it'll power the system. You won't need all that extra baggage. Okay, so what we're looking at here on this system, the total cost of your project is $84,556. Okay, your total tax credit amount for state and Fed is going to be $30,367. For your net cost here, $54,189. Now, what I provided here is a 25-year loan with no early prepayment penalty. And since it's a solar loan, we're able to finance that at a 0.99% APR. All right, so it's basically free money. Okay, this is an industry leader on the APR. Now, what that means on a monthly basis, today your average electric bill payment is $440 per month. Once you make the switch over to solar, it'll only be $42. Right, so that'll be your basic service charge, your fixed cost of power from the utility company. In place of that, you'll have a monthly loan payment that's $231 per month. So your total bill will go from $440 all the way down to $267 with, like I mentioned, absolutely no money out of pocket, saving you $173 a month.
Okay, Matt. Yeah, I thought you said average utility payment would be just the service charge, and it's $19.50.
Very good. Yeah, you've been paying close attention. So it's $19.50 for the basic service charge. In addition to that, in the state of New York, there's a surcharge payment for the size of the system, which is an extra $1 per kW. So you have the 20 plus you have 22 here. That'll be the same for any outfit, state law. Okay. So the fixed cost here would be 42, loan payment 231, 267 the total cost, and then 173 is your savings. Now, the way that the loan is actually structured is this. Like I mentioned here, the total cost of the system is $84,556. You'll get $25,000 back in the federal tax credit. You'll get an additional $5,000 back from the state of New York. All right. Now, the way that this loan is structured is as follows. Month 1 through 18, your monthly payment will be $231 per month. Okay. What most people do is when they get this federal tax credit, they pay that money back into the principal of the loan to keep the payment as low as possible. If you do that, your monthly payment will stay at $231, month 19 through year 25. Okay. Now, this scenario here assumes that you pocket the $5,000, right? So just to reiterate here, it's $231 a month. You're saving $173 per month, and you just pocketed $5,000. Okay. Now, if you decide, hey, I'd rather trade in my $5,000 for a lower monthly payment, you could do that too, right? Where in this scenario, month 1 through 18, your monthly payment will still start off at $231. If you return both the federal and the state here of the $5,000, month 19 to year 25, it'll drop all the way down to $215. Okay. The last option is you keep all the money, right? So you can start off again, $231. They all start off at $231. And if you decide to keep the $30,367, your monthly payment only goes up to $316. $316, right, plus 42, right, is $358. 358 minus 440, you're still basically saving $100 a month, and you just pocketed 30 grand, 30,300. Now, you don't need to tell me. You don't need to. It doesn't matter what you do, right? You have 18 months to decide what you do with the money. Okay. Any questions about any of that?
Well, with the tax incentive, I'll have to take a look, but I know you said you have 5 years to claim it. What if I only have 12,000 to pay back? Would that adjust the payment?
A good question. Yeah. So the monthly payment will adjust automatically on month 18. So in this scenario, you would have 2 tax seasons essentially, right? Because we would get your system installed before the end of the year, and then the 18-month clock would start, right? So let's say it gets installed before the end of the year, you'd have 2022 to claim, and then 2023 to claim, right? Before the year. So for example, if you had 12,000, right, on the feds, right, and let's say 5,000 from the state, right, you'd be able to claim the full fed and the full state year 1, and then the remaining fed year 2, right, for 25. You'd come right along that 24, 25 number.
But like you said, regardless, I'll get it back.
Correct. And you're going to get it back before the payment reamortizes anyways, right? Because you have 2 tax seasons, because it's an 18-month amortization period.
Okay. Understood.
That makes sense?
Yep.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I mean, I think there's some good information to, share with my wife. Is it possible to send over the presentation or the quote?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely send everything over. So the way that we do things is a little bit different. This information is preliminary, right? So it's based off of the satellite imagery. So what we typically do in this scenario, right? If everybody says, look, this sounds good, let's take the next steps. What we end up doing is we come out and we do a full on-site assessment. Right? Come out, check out the roof, check out the electrical, right? Check out the shading measurements, make sure the system's going to produce exactly what it's supposed to be producing. Then I work with the engineers. We go through all the final designs, right? And then we recalibrate the final agreement based off of the real world numbers. And then we all dot I's and cross T's based off of that agreement, not off this proposal. Okay. Now, the numbers shouldn't change. Everything should stay pretty close. We're just mostly out there to check out your electrical system, your roof, right? And measure the trees in the area. Okay. Now, all we do for this today is just a credit application to make sure that you are financially qualified for the program, which I can actually pull up right here. Okay. So I pull this up, I fill in the information, right? Okay. Solar, project amount, so on and so forth, right? I agree, and then you click submit. Okay.
Okay.
And then you call in to schedule your survey on the survey hotline. Okay?
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much the way that I would handle that, right? If you gave me more pushback, right? Oh, I don't know, I need to talk about, well, what is it that you need to talk it over with, right? You've gotten to
I wasn't done yet, but no.
Good, let's go. Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, see, I want one now, so it's kind of like it's harder to come up with objections after you've been doing this, but I mean, well, I know it's the credit one, it's a soft check, so, but if the site survey, they're not locked into that if they did decide, but you want to make sure they're as positive as possible.
Exactly. And that's why I say that exactly the way that I did. We're going to come out, we're going to do this, the numbers are going to come back, and then at that point, we're going to dot I's and cross T's over that. So I let them know we're not signing anything today, right? Yeah. However, we will be signing this when it comes back, right? So we don't want to set up like, site surveys where we think like, they're probably not going to do it, but let's see if I can get the truck out there. Because it's a truck roll, right? So we don't want to,
Yeah, it's wasting people's time, and if they're
exactly, and money, right? And the other part of it too, just so you know, the way that this works internally, is this: once a site survey happens, you have 30 days to close that business, right? So you schedule a survey, you have 30 days to close that business. It's 3 weeks. You have 3 weeks to close that person, right? If that's not closed in 3 weeks, it gets reactivated and I try to close it.
Okay.
Right. So just be aware of that, right? Like, if the person's not ready or if, they still need to be worked on, that's not going to be yours forever. Right. Because at that point, as soon as the company invests money into it, we want to try to recoup our investment, right? With like rolling trucks, doing site survey, paying for engineering, paying for so on and so forth. So,
yeah. How many of those would you say you'd close that people don't close within 3 weeks?
I have a very good team right now, so not a lot. I mean, I probably close 2 or 3 a month, right? Yeah. But at one point, I closed 19 one month last year. Yeah. So, but that's not it. That's, I mean, that was like the second month that I did it, right? Because things were being left on the table, people calling into the office or waiting for something. Most of those people don't work here anymore. But yeah, I mean, I have a good group of like of very good salespeople. I think you'll notice when you get into the sales meetings, you know, these guys they're heavy hitters. Most of them, they do a good job. And they're professionals, right? These are guys that are making well into the six figures per year. This is not like some, you know, part-time kind of, you know.
Yeah, no.
These are, you know, they know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, it's not a lot now. The guys do a good job following up. They're on top of their leads, or on top of their progress. But yeah, really on this, right? You can't argue with the shit, right? I mean, the numbers on this are comically good, right? You're going to be saving $173 a month and pocketing $5 grand, right? Oh, you don't want to pocket $5 grand? Well, then you're saving an extra $20 a month. Oh, yeah. You want to keep all the money on this one? Cool. You spent $30,000 in your pocket. You're still paying $80 less than what you're paying today. How do you argue with that, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll see, but you know,
yeah, people don't do a good job. When you put on a good presentation, the arguments just sound stupid, right? It's
well,
like
you've gotten rid of most of the arguments as you're going through the presentation.
Exactly, and that's the key.
Yeah.
Right? That's the key, and that's what takes a practice, right? Because as you're going through some of this stuff too, you're preemptively overturning objections before they come. So at the end, the only thing left to do is just close, right? Even as I'm going to even as I'm going through the actual proposal, right? It's a 25-year loan with no early prepayment penalty, right?
Yep,
that's like, you want to prep for these things, right? Well, and it's only 0.99%. It's basically free money, right?
Yep.
Well, how do you get to a 0.99%? Well, I explained, well, this is a specialty solar loan, right? So I'm explaining all these things in the presentation, right? So I don't get a lot of objections when I'm pitching because of the way that I'm explaining things, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm also stopping the presentation constantly, right? So that's a very important thing in the beginning, that it's start, stop, right? Open the screen, close the screen, because you want to keep them engaged here. If you run too long, right, on a shared screen, right, you lose them. Right there, you know, you stop the screen recorder after half an hour and they're gone. Right, they're cooking.
You hope they're still there at the
exactly. Or they're playing on their phone. You want to just keep them engaged and do as much of this as possible. Let me stop this screen share.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.